squirms a little bit. Heidi ho, internet neighbors. Today, I have an absolutely ridiculous review for you. It is a Mercedes Sprinter 2500 high roof, long wheelbase cargo van with the diesel. And today, I'm gonna somehow get this thing up in the air, nerd out in the tech specs, see how it's constructed underneath, and then go give it the beans. Oh, that's as high as I can go. Oh, geez. This is nerve-wracking. Don't worry, it's well under the weight capacity. Speaking of weight capacities, this Sprinter van is capable of towing up to 7,500 pounds, and it's got a hitch on it too. I love the attention to detail and how they routed that wiring, and it's got the chafe abrasion stuff on it too. This little nipple in the bumper is part of the parking sensor and is definitely appreciated on this thing. Oh. Rolly chair reviews. So, it has a steely spare tire matching, and it's in a little cage. Well, the whole underside of this thing is all rubber undercoated. I like that. It's got a little downturn exhaust tip underneath here. It's pretty good diameter piping. It's all stainless. I like that exhaust hanger. It's heavy duty. As far as the rear suspension goes, it has a solid rear axle with leaf springs. What you'll notice though is it is just one massive leaf spring despite having a 9,050 pound gross vehicle weight rating. That's odd. It's got Monroe dampers. I'm surprised I didn't go with Bilstein since it's a German vehicle. Inside this rear pumpkin houses a 3.9 final drive ratio. I have a feeling it's an open diff. I couldn't find any literature on it saying otherwise. It's got a rather stout set of U-joints on it. The girth of this drive shaft is rather impressive. It just made tingly noises when I touched it. I don't like that at all. I don't like being under here. Mercedes is not playing around with corrosion prevention. On top of it having the rubber undercoating, all these little rubber plugs, there's also chassis wax coating on everything, inside everything as well. This thing is really made for salty climates. Despite the enormous size of this high roof, long wheelbase 2500 Sprinter van, it only weighs in at 5,360 pounds. The only thing that's really heavy, I guess, would be the diesel engine and the rear axle, because the rest of it's just a hollow tissue box with wheels. This rather large continuous piece of piping has an outside diameter of 69 millimeter, which is 2 3/4 inch exhaust piping. No way. It's plastic, and it's got weird little degree hieroglyphs going all the way around the center carrier bearing. The drive shaft has these neat little hoops on the second portion of it. Moving up towards the front, there's another plastic carrier bearing. Ah, yes, emissions things. That's neat. Moving up front, that's neat, is the battery box right here underneath the driver's seat-ish area. As far as the transmission goes, above my head is the Bandler 7-Gang Automatic, which is a G-tronic 7-speed automatic transmission. It is rated for a maximum torque input of 760 Newton meters or 560 pound-feet. As far as the front suspension goes, the Sprinter utilizes a transverse leaf spring with strut. This big thing right here is a leaf spring going sideways. It's kind of a neat design because the leaf spring goes up above the lower control arm right here, which is fully boxed steel. And then you can see the strut right here where it mounts in 2 different locations to the knuckle. It's all steel in construction, and it still has an end link and a front anti-sway bar, which I shall now measure. And it is approximately 24 millimeter in diameter. Here I was expecting bigger. This thing's so big. All right, it's time for the braking test. I don't know. I don't think there's anyone behind me. Ready? Oh, geez. Oh, man. It was fairly stable too. I don't know why. That was just nerve-wracking. It actually did well though. That braking was just accomplished thanks to a rather large set of 2-piston front calipers with a 300 millimeter or 11.8 inch front rotor. The wheels, they're Steelies. I love Steelies. These are 16 by 6.5 Steelies with a plastic center cap that looks like a sand dollar. I wanted to call it a starfish. That's a different beach creature. These are wrapped in a set of LT 245 75 16-inch Michelin Achilles tires. It's like the tendon in the back of your leg, but more agile and rubbery. High five, buddy. Out back, you get a rather large single piston caliper with a 297 millimeter or 11.7 inch rotor, and still get some Steelies with the plastic sand dollar center caps and same size tires as you get front. You can also get this in a dually. Listen to this. That's really good sound deadening, that rubber undercoating. In the name of science, I am now going to give this thing the beans. I'm gonna give this van the beans. Bolstering assessment, oh. Yep, that's about all I'm gonna test. I don't want to break my neck. It's got a little bit of bolstering though, actually. Little folding armrest. The seats are heated as well as their power and memory. Even the passenger side has power memory seats that are heated. As far as drive modes go, I don't have any, but I do got some flappy paddle shifters in the back of the steering wheel, which is a delight. What I can do is select the little van logo, which will quickly bring up the ESP menu, which stands for stability control, traction control, disable that. Now I can do some Bernie Sanders. Ready? Give this thing a little assistance and let it eat. Go. Ooh. And there's the boost. It's actually kind of quick. This is so silly. I mean, it is empty, but still. That's good, yeah. Good job, little van. Not little, it's big. That's what he said. Mid pop. Mid pop. Oh, it's got vents. Oh, they're functional. It's got functional vents. That is a heavy hood. What the hell? This is not for you to put water in. Don't try to give your van a drink. Underneath the hood of the 2022 Mercedes Sprinter 2500 is the OM642, which is an all aluminum 72-degree 3-liter dual overhead cam common rail diesel V6. It produces 188 horsepower at 3,800 RPM and 325 pound-feet of torque from 1,600 to 2,400 RPM. But here's the thing, I'm almost positive they are sandbagging on those numbers. That is probably what this thing makes at the wheel, or pretty close to it at the wheel, because it feels way quicker than just those numbers. For this thing being a van, it's not that terrible to access the engine. You take off this giant air box and you can get to pretty much everything. Digging in a little bit deeper on this OM642, one of its unrealized benefits, I feel, is the fact that it is an all aluminum engine, meaning it only weighs 459 pounds, which is fairly light for a diesel. Now this thing has an 83 by 92 millimeter bore stroke with an 18:1 compression ratio, has forged rods as well as a forged crank, and it is a single turbo. It has a variable nozzle Garrett GT 2056 BK. Thankfully, I was able to get my hands on a 2022 model for you guys because this is the last year of this V6 diesel. It's been discontinued for 2023, and now you can only get it with the 4-cylinder diesel or the 4-cylinder gas engine. One of the benefits of this engine is the fact that Mercedes had used it for almost 20 years, which means there's plenty of time to work out any kinks and bugs and make improvements along the way. Because this is a 72-degree V6, it means it's fairly compact and it gives you lots of room to access things around the engine bay. Obviously, you gotta take off this giant air box, but once that's gone, I mean, it looks like it'd be fairly easy to work on this thing. Over here on the driver's side, all you got is your washer fluid reservoir and your ECU and then the ABS module, and that's about it. It's fairly empty. Same thing on the passenger side. There's the coolant expansion chamber and the trash can you're not supposed to put water in. Garrett Turbo sits right down there in the valley of the V6. I was wondering where this is. The DEF fill is underneath the hood. It wouldn't be a Mercedes without some Rue Goldberg wiper linkage. What the hell? This looks like those candy things they used to have at arcades in the 90s. You broke off the tab and sucked out the sugary stuff. Over the past few days of driving this, I have to say this is one of my favorite vehicles I've reviewed in a long time. what it is about driving a van, but it's extremely pleasurable. Pleasurable. I think pleasurable is when you're doing it to yourself, and pleasureful when the environment is full of pleasure. Pleasureful. This one has over 20 options added to it, to the point where it's kind of ridiculous what is considered an option. Like the fact that it has a rear view mirror. I get that, but what I don't understand is why someone added a rear view mirror when there's no back window. Well, the floor is soft, kind of. I am 5'11", and I can kind of sort of jump in here. Just think of all the activities you could do in this 170-inch wheelbase model. It's so big. That's a long walk. Hey, there's the cab. Well, that's neat. All the lights are LED. What? I have not even the slightest clue what that is a unit of measure of, or where that would be from. Got tons of these little tie-down shackles. These things are super hard to pull up. Rugged. It's super fun to drive around, and other than having the extended long wheelbase, you really can't tell you're driving that large of a vehicle. It handles maneuvers fairly well considering its size. Obviously, you have to take corners a little bit later, like you're towing a trailer because it's so long, but it's comfy, and on a windy road, it's not as butt puckery as you think it would be. In fact, if you drive something like this every single day, you could probably chuck it into corners that a lot of people think you wouldn't be able to. Ah, I'm coming up on a van up ahead. The Chevy Astro van, it looks like. I am bigger than you and higher on the food chain. Ooh, fire. See, look at this. Chucking it into a corner. Going 5 under the speed limit. Whee! This thing squirms a little bit. Oh, yeah. If you've never driven something like this before, I highly recommend it at least once in your life. It's so fun. The one option I feel is an absolute must with this thing is the 360-degree camera system, because the rear camera is mounted way at the top of the back of the van, which is nice if you're backing into a driveway with a covered overhang or there's a tree behind you. It lets you see what you're going to hit with the top of the van, not just with the back bumper. I love the visibility you get out of this massive windshield. I can only imagine how expensive that would be to replace if insurance didn't cover it though, because that is a big piece of glass. Power foldy boys. For this just being a cargo van, these are nice vents. They're really solid feeling. I like the gloss black and satin black. As far as the infotainment system goes, it has a touchscreen menu just like any other Mercedes product. It's very familiar to use. It has navigation and satellite radio. There's a little screen down here for the climate control, and a recirc actually shows a van. I like that. The steering wheel has the little capacitive touch buttons on here that actually work really well in a Mercedes. I like them in this thing. And what's funny though is the screen in the gauge cluster is LCD, so it looks like little 8-bit graphics inside the menu system on here. Plenty of cup holders, and the floor is all rubber, and it looks like it actually comes out, the matte portion. You can take it out to wash it. This thing's actually got a ton of headroom. You could probably stand up in here. Actually, can confirm, you can definitely stand up in here. I could probably jump. I'm not going to. Oh wow, I wouldn't have noticed that if I wouldn't have stood up. There's cup holders on the dash, as well as there's a bunch of charge outlets. Fuel economy has completely blown me away. I've averaged just under 20 miles per gallon with this thing. Granted, it's empty, but still, it's as aerodynamic as a cinder block. I should have said brick because it's red. Also, another massive downside, and this is just kind of science, is the fact that this thing is so tall and so long and flat that if you pass a semi on the interstate, you definitely feel the wind shift you around. It'll pucker your asshole in a quickness. It is time to give this van some scores, starting with the bean assessment, the feeling you get in your gut when you give it the beans. And this Sprinter 2500 is getting a rating of, followed by the cookie score. That is the assessment of value, and this thing, as configured with a ton of options, brings it up to $58,000 and change, and it's getting a rating of. Next is the wrench score, the assessment of maintainability to maintain. And this thing is surprisingly getting a rating of not bad. Followed by the squid score. I can't give it an off-road assessment. I'm not taking this thing off-road. It's not the all-wheel drive version. So handling wise, just caution, it's tippy, tall roof. Next is the Penguin score. It's the assessment of how much I personally like a vehicle. And the Sprinter van gets a rating of, I like vans. This thing is so fun to drive and the possibilities are endless what you can do with it. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this strange review and I'll see you soon with another. Bye.